I'm on to phase 2 with the big office furniture build. So the first phase was the big L-shaped desk, the 12 by 8 desktop with 3 cabinets. The second phase and the final phase to this is going to be a bar that comes off the side of the short side of the L-shaped desk. So it'll be a 12-foot long bar, completing this piece of furniture to create a U shape. So where the bar meets the side of the desk, I've decided to create sort of a boxed-in cabinet to start the bar. That cabinet, like the rest of them, needs a cherry veneer over my birch plywood. So today I'm going to show you my method to veneering cherry to birch and creating a cherry plywood. A little bit of background on why I chose to use cherry veneer over cherry plywood. So cherry plywood essentially is just cherry veneer plywood already done. The thing is, it does add a little bit of labor to add this cherry veneer to the plywood, but cherry plywood, I priced it and it was 4 times, if not more, the amount of cost that it would cost me just to buy the veneer and veneer it myself. And it's really not a hard process. You can mess it up, but with the steps that I take, it's hard to mess up. I overcut it, make sure that I have plenty of excess on the sides, and makes it easy to trim and makes it look great. So the tools and supplies that you'll need for my process is contact cement, scissors, a roller, a paint roller, any sort of paint roller, or brush. You can use a brush, but I prefer to use a paint roller. So the first step that I'm going to take is I'm going to take the piece that I need to cut. I sit it on top of the veneer, and I'm just going to give a little bit of overlap. I mark it here and here. I've got a piece cut out here. I ran out of veneer, so I'm not going to need that piece anyway. So it's not that big of a deal because it's going to be covered by the desk. Now I'm going to take a square, get a line to go as far as I can in this direction. This doesn't have to be perfect because, like I said, I did oversize it quite a bit. Now, this veneer is thin enough, I believe it's a 64th, so I can cut this with scissors easily. And this is the only wrapping that I will be doing this Christmas. So I've got the 2 pieces of veneer cut, my 2 pieces of plywood cut, and I'm ready to attach the plywood to the structure of the cabinet. The reason I want to do this is because I want to veneer the cherry on top of the plywood after it's connected to the cabinet so that I don't have to put any holes into the veneer itself. So this is the start of the cabinet, the carcass with one side. This side does not need any veneer because it will be against the wall. I'm going to put the big piece of plywood up here first. Make sure that I've got it cut correctly before I glue and nail this down. So it looks pretty good. So for this portion, you could use screws. I use glue and 18 gauge nails. So back at the bench, I've got my veneer face down along with the contact cement. I'm going to open up this contact cement, some contact cement into here. And now I'm going to take some of this contact cement, a very liberal amount, and we'll make a few coats on here and just start rolling it on. The first coat always takes a little bit longer because it does absorb the contact cement more than the other coats, just as finish absorbs into wood. The other advantage to cutting it slightly oversized is that I don't have to get right to the edge of the piece of veneer. I try to get as close as I can without going overboard and painting my workbench, but you don't have to get right to the edge just because we're going to be cutting that off anyway. So let's go over to the cabinet. So I'm going to repeat the same process at the cabinet. I want to make sure that it's cleaned off. There's no debris. I'm going to start the same process. And now that I've got the cabinet and the accompanying veneer covered, I'm going to let it dry for a couple of minutes, get coffee, and I'll be right back. So I'm going to repeat the previous step on the veneer and the cabinet, putting a second coat. So now that I've got 2 coats of contact cement on the veneer and the cabinet, letting each coat dry between coats, I want to let the final second coat dry and then I can join them. And you don't want to join this when it's wet because the actual molecular formation happens when the contact cement is dry. And if you're impatient like me and you don't feel like waiting the 15 to 20 minutes for it to dry in between coats, you can apply heat. Now, I haven't heard of anybody doing this, but I've done it before and it works fine, just like with any other finishes or wood filler. You can use heat to sort of draw the moisture out and make it dry quicker. I want to make sure that I keep the heat gun about 9 to 12 inches from the surface. I don't want to bake the surface, and I don't want to char the contact cement. I just want to give a light little heat just to sort of speed up the process. Another caveat to using contact cement is that it is highly flammable. You can tell as soon as you open this can up, it is nasty stuff. In my opinion, that's probably the reason why it works so well. But with that being said, I would say always use PPE when using this, a mask. The reason that I'm not wearing a mask is so that I can bring this great content to you. And I'm only doing a couple sheets here, so try to limit the exposure without a mask to this stuff because it really is, it's terrible stuff. And that's why it's so great. So now that the contact cement has dried, I'm going to cut a few sticks, clean them, and lay them on top of the cabinet itself. The reason that I can lay these on top of the cabinet without sticking is because the contact cement only adheres to another surface that has contact cement on it. So by putting these sticks down, it's going to space the veneer off the cabinet and I can get it lined up. This is another reason why the cutting oversized is the method that I like to use, because when I do that, then I get it close. I get the grain going in obviously the correct direction. I get it vertical, but I also have a little bit of overhang here so that I don't accidentally shift it one way or the other and throw it off and have a birch plywood exposed. And I'm going to take out the first stick. I'll take the roller and give it a couple rolls here just to get it in place, and then I'm going to start taking out the subsequent sticks. So I'm going to take that one, and as I take these sticks out, I'm going to lightly press down and so now the veneer is applied to the plywood, but I want to make sure that it has a really tight bond. So I want to put a lot of pressure on this roller, and I want to go in different directions while making sure that I keep a lot of pressure on this thing. You really can't over roll this thing. I do it about 2 or 3 times at varying speeds, while always keeping a lot of pressure on there. So now you can see I've got some overhang. Now that I will take the trim router and sort of trim that up, but it's really adhered very nicely. I'm not ready to take the trim router and get rid of this excess. I put a flush trim bit with the bearing on the bottom right along the cabinet itself and get rid of the excess veneer. So that just about wraps it up for this video. Let me know what you think. Do you use the same type of method? Do you use another method? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what I did wrong. Inevitably, I did do something wrong here. I'm sure of it. Also, subscribe to my channel. I'm sort of newer to the YouTube platform, so I'm sort of trying to find my niche. And I've got some videos planned for the upcoming months. So subscribe so that you get a notification and so that you can see those videos as soon as they come out.